Chairman, I'm reminded, and I've quoted Ronald Reagan before, when he said there's nothing closer to life eternal on the face of this earth than a government agency once formed. And he went on to talk about things that have to be done and can be done. And every time there is an effort to try to have efficiencies in government, they'll pick out the one thing that is of greater concern to everyone and use that. But I want to say to you, Mr. Breen, I appreciate two things that you said in your opening statements as well as responding to questions. I really appreciate it. First of all, you are saying, yes, we are right now looking for efficiencies. And for efficiencies, knowing that there are in any bureaucracy areas where we can find efficiencies, we can find waste and abuse and all of that, I applaud you for it. And the second thing is, when Scott Pruitt was up for his nomination, he made the comment over and over again, he did so before this committee and elsewhere, about the significance of the cleanups and his effort to really concentrate and get things done. And it appears to me, and I have to admit that I've only been over there once since he's been there, and that was yesterday. And in that, he took me into the long table room. I suspect there's a seat for you at that long table, when he was talking about the priorities that he had and how quickly he is really getting into talking to you guys who know more about it than we do up here on establishing priorities. So I appreciate the fact that you've made those comments. And I think also, I wrote this down when you said it, General, it sounds like you're doing a pretty good job. When you look at the correct me if I'm wrong, if I got this down wrong, but 5,357 cleanup sites, and now 3,513 are either closed out or in the monitoring status. Is that accurate?
Yes, sir. And I think the other thing, it goes back to the efficiency piece. We continue to try to find ways of continuing to get more value out of those funds that do come in. Yeah. Also to be postured for year-end money. And there are several times when we have contracts that we can put money on so that if in fact it's unobligated somewhere else, we're able to go back in and to be able to make sure we're optimizing the use of that money through the contract vehicles we have.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and there's some other things before I got distracted on that I was going to mention, but I do want to mention one, and that is Tar Creek. I bet how many of you nod if you've ever heard of Tar Creek? One, all right? Tar Creek was the #1 site in America at that time. Historically, it was a big mining area in northeastern Oklahoma, actually extended up into Kansas and over into Missouri. But it was a huge thing. And the mining that took place there took place back, we're talking about back in the 40s. And we didn't have any really good, accurate records as to what was underneath the ground. Later on, we found there was an elementary school that any day could have caved in with all those kids there, and we were able to get into there. Well, that was a major thing. I have to say that even though this was not a former site that you'd be dealing with, General, you still did. We had a lot of activity from the Corps. Then from all the agencies that worked together. Kind of reminds me a little bit of the disaster that we faced in Oklahoma just last week when we had this terrible fire, the worst in history. And when everybody did come together and did a good job. That's exactly what happened to Tar Creek. And so I want to say all the players, it really did work, and it worked successfully. And if we hadn't gotten on it, then you don't know how many of those little kids at that elementary school might have sustained really serious problems. So I think it's sometimes important to talk about the good job that's being done. I appreciate it, and I do think in this new administration, you're going to have a new concentration of less concentration on trying to build sciences and more concentration on getting things done. And I thank you for your testimony. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.